It just kind of popped in my head one day when I was in bed, and I literally said it out loud. And like, what if two people that, you know, completely different groups that completely hate each other are in a room and they knew each other as children, because we're not born with hate. That's something that's learned. And so the idea that a Nazi and a concentration camp prisoner knew each other, and what that would change and how that conversation would be if they both realized that. And so yeah, I wrote a script that I thought that we definitely couldn't make, and I gave it to my producer, and she was like, let's make it. And I was like, oh God, I'm scared. And then it kind of built from there, and we got a great team together, and every step of the way it was like, how am I going to get actors that can do this? And then I did, and then, you know, how am I going to get sets that, you know, are believable, and production designer was awesome, and how are we going to get a German-looking creek and throw some children in it, and that happened too. So it was just kind of an unbelievable process. Yeah.
So I'm going to just assume you didn't actually throw the children into the creek, but you know, just small, light tosses. But you just said something interesting about, you know, trying to find all the right people and having the production design and all that stuff, and everything becoming what you want. That's a big part of it. So from a performer's point of view, what was it like finding this story and performing in this, as far as versus other things? Because this is different from, you know, we don't normally see a lot of these kind of films, especially in shorts.
I was on backstage randomly, actually, and I came across this project, and just the name alone says a lot, and I had to look it up. I didn't know what it meant, and it means world of pain. I'm always very attracted, and I gravitate to projects exactly like Christian and Julia's, for the fact that I love history, I love the military genre, and I do love an extremely good challenge. And the process for me is different. It was different compared to a modern day type of project versus a period piece. And this is my first period piece, and I feel like it was meant to be, and it was a godsend. And I'm very appreciative of them believing in me, that I'm able and capable of playing such a character.
Thank you. You know, it's interesting, when we put together the different blocks of films, in this particular film, you know, we always get films in that have kind of a similar tone, and we don't know until we get them into, you know, what blocks we build. This was always something that I wanted to do, and I've done this a couple times now, and this is, you know, in battle, it's the other side of war. It's never about war. It's always about the repercussions, either to the people or the personnel and things like that, or what happens in that. So in a production, you have basically your own little wars throughout the production. So the question from a producer's side point of view is really the question of, what is it that happened? What is that day that you felt like you had just gone through hell and back because you had to get it done, but it happened anyway, and you got it made, and it went on the screen? What was that? What was that like?
I guess we asked kids to do stunts in a creek that was snow runoff water, so it was literally just above freezing. So they were wearing wetsuits under their costume, and we had like little heaters for them and stuff. But that was pretty tough, because kids are kids and they don't like being cold. So I felt for them, but they got it done, and I think they did a good job.
Yeah, they did incredible. Now that you had your film screened at a few festivals and people have seen it, and you actually get an audience reaction, you get that feeling. Take you back to the first time that you saw it on a big screen. What is that feeling like, and what's that all about for you?
I think you said it, that we're in a vacuum, and we were in a vacuum with this movie for 2 years, because that was the whole process from writing to screening was 2 years. So getting it out to people who don't know us, didn't work on the film, is a huge thing, because you don't know if it's good until you show it to people who don't know you. To get actual reactions was really important, and it's just the sense of an ending, where it's like, this was a really, really long process, and now it's like out there in the world, and
Closure.
Yeah, closure. It's a really good feeling to not be done with it, but it's like, we did it, it's out there. So yeah, that's why I'm glad that we're here.
I like how when he goes give her the mic. She's like, no, I'm not doing that. You answer the question. Don't drag me into this. Yeah, the big thing about films, and it doesn't matter what film it is, you'll never get it completed ever to the where you want it. And the funny thing you said about the sound, you know, we do our best to try to make sure everything looks good and sounds good, but you know, there's always going to be some weird thing that happens and whatever. But that is, even after you've seen it 10 times on the big screen, you're still going, oh, that was the day that this happened. What was that thing? I want to know at least one thing from each of you. What happened that you see on the screen still that bugs you?
Yeah, I feel like I'm a completely different filmmaker than when I made this film. I feel like I've grown so much, and watching it now is like, oh, the things I would do differently or do better. Yeah, we cut, I think, like 5 minutes out of the film, just for timing reasons and pacing, and that some of those cuts made it better, some of those cuts made it not so better, and like, yeah. So yeah, just watching it, I guess I'm seeing my growth of who I am now as to when I made it, and like I was a third year in undergrad when we made this, and I'm a first year at Chapman actually. What? Yeah. So
Such a small world.
I know, right? So yeah, I guess it's just generally seeing the growth of myself. I'm not going to nitpick because I can nitpick all day about this film. Yeah.
I have a nitpick.
Oh, good.
There's one part where he breaks the baton, and we only had one baton that we could break, and so we were really nervous about it. So we actually switched out the actress, and I'm in that shot because we were worried that's a real baton, not the foam one. So it's weird because we're not the same size, so it's like a jump cut to me. It bugs me every time I see it. I know it's that on there.
She was amazing, I swear. I always appreciate questions like that, and it's great to hear from a director's and producer's point of view. And I think it's safe to say that we are our own worst critic. Really, no matter who you are, it doesn't matter if you're an artist or just a human being. I think it's easy to see the negative. But to answer your question, I think I personally had a couple of weeks to prepare, and in terms of the dialect, and I went to an acting conservatory 12 years ago. But I created this binder of dialects because I love dialects, and I hadn't done German yet. And in putting myself on tape for this, I just said, this is such an ambitious project, and I need to give, and I always do, but 100% to this. And and that's exactly what I did. But bringing it back to the dialect, there are certain parts in the film where I hear it and I'm just like, ugh, that I would want to sort of. They're very minute and very small, but they're things that I know that I can improve upon. But I will end it by saying that I'm extremely proud of this film and these two here. They're such hard workers, and I'm very proud of my own performance because it was to date one of my favorites.
You should be. It's amazing performance, and it's equally interesting to watch and hard to watch. So that's a really good sign. Just so you guys all know, on the way out, we'll have batons for everybody. We'll be hitting her on the way out.
I get first crack. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll be taking turns doing that. Do I have any questions for the audience, real quick? I got one right there.
So both films are really beautiful, and they both made me cry for very different reasons. But I wanted to ask Christian of Weltschmerz, how was it that opening scene where Chris is the German soldier officer? Terrifying. I mean, really terrifying. The lighting, all that was beautifully terrifying. But what was it like directing the violence? Had you directed violence like that before? Because that was very, very intense. What was that like?
I don't think I had directed violence before this. Yeah, it was really, we rehearsed a lot. We had rehearsals just for the dialogue and the emotion, and then we had rehearsals just for the action scenes. And we had a stunt coordinator on set that was really great. But yeah, it was just kind of between every take, like going to Sarah, the woman, like, are you okay? Like, and I know that, like, maybe Chris can talk about this more, but just between them, it was very intimate because, it's so physical. But I wanted it to be hard to watch without being overly graphic. one of the things that we found in the edit was that montage where she's talking to her children on the train, and it keeps cutting back to her getting hit. That was something that wasn't in the script. It was supposed to be all in real time. And then we found that if we put that in, it extends that period where she's getting beaten, but we don't have to watch the whole thing. And so, yeah, it was, I guess, I wanted it to be realistic, but not gory, which is why we didn't bloody her up too much.
I have a question for Chris. So Chris, your role, I saw it at the dining table when my husband was reviewing your film, and you just did an exceptional job, so kudos to you. And
Thank you.
getting ready for the role, getting your mind and everything into that position to where you were so believable. What did you do to prepare for that role, to make it believable to me and the audience? What did you do?
Thank you for the compliments and the question. Initially, usually when I read any script, I try to read it as an audience member and passing no judgments whatsoever, and that way it'll open up further choices down the road. But in terms of my own process is different for every film that I do, and seeing as how I said this was my very first period piece. I resorted to watching Schindler's List, which is a favorite movie of mine. But the first time I watched it to have the sympathy for the Jews, which is extremely easy to have. And then the hardest part for me when I watched it a second time was to find sympathy for the other side, and being in love with Richter was the difficult part in being okay in this body. But I also watched a lot of documentaries about, it's going to sound random, but serial killers, just because they have a certain look in their eye. Sometimes it's intense, but most times it's as if they're talking, their day-to-day lives. And there's an emotional detachment in some of these people, and I wanted that to hit on screen a little bit, because when you are evil, you don't hope to be evil, you just are, because you are. And so that was sort of a choice that I wanted to make, and not play the idea of being evil, but just be evil and know that he is. Yeah, thank you for the question.
Thank you for your evilness. No, but that is I think a big part of that is the fact that you inhabit a character, and it's a brilliant portrayal. So thank you for that in the performance. You know what? Actually, we have to wrap this up, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'm going to keep talking to these guys all day. Please find our filmmakers when you're walking around the festival. If you go to the VIP room, talk to them there. Talk to them anywhere. They need that feedback. They need to know what they're doing is remarkable, because it is. I want to thank all four of you for being here today and presenting your film, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And I want to thank you. Please fill out your ballots and hand them out on the way out, and we're going to go and get ready for another screening here in just a few minutes. Thank you so much.